Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a hot minute since my last Zachary Brown broadcast. Um, if we're counting the days, which I know some of you guys are, you guys fiend for this. The last one was on the 27th of February, which, as I am recording this, early in the morning on Monday the 9th of March, that is almost a week and a half. But for good reason. There's good reason behind me doing this, and it's definitely not because I was sitting on my ass and I was not doing anything. The For that first kind of week after the 28th, I got in a car wreck on that Tuesday, on the 2nd, and so I had to deal with that. So I was dealing with that up until Thursday. Friday, I felt pretty defeated because insurance, despite paying them to do one job, is refusing to do that one job. Don't worry, I'm fine. Other drivers fine. It was not my fault. No one got cited. So, completely pulled an Al Mercedes move here, which we will mention later. We will mention the Al Mercedes Formula One team. But then Saturday and Sunday, I guess yesterday, I was busy. Saturday, I was at the IndyCar race, the Good Ranchers 250, and I stayed around for the GovX 200, the NASCAR O'Reilly race. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I have the tickets. I may as well go to the NASCAR race as well. I'll go to the, who sponsored it? The Straight Talk Wireless 500. I think that's what it was called. I'll go to the NASCAR Cup race. And it was entertaining. Granted, I do not like stage cautions. That kind of ruined everything. Or that ruined a lot of it. It didn't ruin everything. But it was still entertaining to watch the cars go vroom as they went by. That was pretty fun. So we are going to go over the bingo card first, my Formula 1 bingo card. Because the first race was on Sunday, technically Saturday if you live in the States. So we will go over the bingo card, alright? Obviously free space, FIA is the real villain. We'll go through each square in order, and or at least in order in the way I have it pulled up. It kind of randomized when I pulled it up, so that wasn't very cool. But yeah, we'll see how we'll see. And immediately starting us off, we have Piastri breaks Australia curse, which that did not happen. That he crashed, not even on the formation lap, but on the lap they do before the formation lap, like half an hour before the formation lap. So yeah, Oscar Piastri did not break the Australia curse, and the Australia curse continues to curse Australian drivers in the Australian Grand Prix. Let's see, what's next here? We can't go over that because that hasn't happened yet. We haven't had the circumstances yet. F1 uses the wet tire. It didn't rain. Mercedes not as dominant as thought. I don't know if I want to cross that one off, because if I cross that one off, the reason I'm hesitating on it is because they are as dominant as I thought, but it was close racing, and it's not necessarily that the Mercedes is not as dominant as I thought it would be, but it's the Ferrari is more dominant than I thought that it would be. And it's putting up a challenge with the Mercedes. I guess technically if you have two teams that are fighting each other, it's not dominance. We'll put a hold on that one. We'll wait for China. We'll wait for the Chongqing Grand Prix, and then we'll see where things go from there. Lawson gets sacked. It's beginning of the season, so we can't cross that one off yet. Mercedes first. Can't cross that one out yet. Can't cross that one out yet. Can't cross that one out yet. God damn it, fuck. Here we go. Here we go. Ferrari fucks up the strategy in Australia. We're going to cross that one off our bingo card here. So, um, Ferrari, um, they were leading the race. Like I said during preseason testing, and like I said during like the practice and stuff. I don't think I said it during the practice. I don't think I did a broadcast then. But the Ferrari has a much quicker start than everybody, and that was shown during the race. On the race start, both Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc got an absolute sender of a start, and Charles Leclerc was leading for a good portion of the race. There is a good chance for a Ferrari 1-2. If not a Ferrari 1-2, then both Ferraris on the podium. And then there was a virtual safety car. And then every driver, including Osama bin Russell of Al Mercadi's Formula One team, pit for new tires, except for the Ferraris, to the point where the commentators were going, Ferrari, what are you doing? Lewis Hamilton went on the radio and said, Ferrari, what are you doing? And then I didn't hear Charles Leclerc at all. I couldn't hear his radio, but I imagine he was upset. So yeah, we will cross up Ferrari fucks up strategy in Australia. It is officially crossed out. Fernando Alonso top 5 finish. That did not happen. He DNF'd. We got to talk about that, all right? We got to talk about the Aston Martin, because I knew it was going to be horrible, but like, oh my god, it is. For those who don't know, there's a rule in Formula One called the 107% rule, and basically, it's technically the threshold, but I'll call it the rule. And basically, in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, you had these teams that were showing up with absolute stinkers of cars. I mean, they make that Aston Martin look fast. Like, I think one of the teams that I'm thinking of is Life, and they basically took, I'm not sure if it was Life or Andrea Moda. It was one of the teams, and they basically took an IndyCar chassis, which was overweight. The oval chassis, by the way, not the road course chassis. And then slapped like a lesser engine in it to let it pass like the regulations. And it was more than like a minute a lap slower than the rest of the cars on the grid. And so the 107% threshold basically means that if your car is below 107% of the pole time set, then you cannot participate in the race. Unless you're Lance Stroll. He got an exemption of the 107% rule. And honestly, I don't know why. Because Adrian Newey came out and held a press conference before the race weekend. And that Aston Martin is a lot worse than we thought. Obviously, it's shaking itself apart, and the drivers hate it, and it's an uncontrollable mess. But not only is that an uncontrollable mess, but potentially any other car that Fernando Alonso or Lance Stroll pilot will become an uncontrollable mess. Because Adrian Newey, these are his words, by the way, said that the car has the potential to cause nerve damage after a certain amount of laps. And not like 400 laps. We're talking like 20 to 30 laps, depending on the circuit. And considering that most Formula One races run between 50 and 70 laps, that's not good. So I was quite optimistic when I put Fernando Alonso top 5 finish in there. I don't think so. I don't even know if they're. The big talk right now that I'm hearing is whether or not they'll even be allowed to compete. Like, if they keep meeting that, or keep not meeting that 107% threshold, will they basically be kicked out like Andrea Moda and Life? I'm not sure. I don't have a crystal ball. That's why I predicted that Piastri would break the Australia curse, and then he crashed on the fucking lap before the formation lap. That happens 30 minutes before the formation lap. So yeah, Osama jihads it into the barrier at Barcelona. That hasn't happened yet. Fernando Alonso radio crash out. I unfortunately do not know. There may have been one. There may have not. I did not hear it on the broadcast. F1 graphics don't help. The F1 graphics were actually alright for Australia, so we won't cross that one out just yet. But I guarantee there will be a goof up from the FIA regarding their graphics. Colton Herta replaces Bottas for 2027. It's too early for that yet. Too early for Bottas beats Checo. Too early for Madrid GP. There wasn't any papaya rules bullshit because there was no papaya rules to go off of. Like I said, Oscar Piastri went off on the, not on the formation lap, but on the lap that is 30 minutes before the formation lap. So there was no papaya rules bullshit because there was only one McLaren on the track. V-Carb goes back to being ass. We got to talk about V-Carb because, like, oh my goodness. Points debut for Arvid Lindblad on his first Formula One race. Honestly, I'm impressed. And then Liam Lawson finished 13th, and that's because he's Liam Lawson and he kind of sucks. But when Arvid Lindblad there may be something special here. I don't want to say too much, like knock on wood. By the way, my table actually has real wood on it. It doesn't have faux wood because I respect wood and I revere wood. And the thought of faux wood makes me sick to my stomach. So yeah, V-Carb goes back to being ass. We can't cross that one out yet because V-Carb, as it's standing right now, is, are they third or fourth? They're fourth in the Constructors' Championship. So that doesn't scream ass. What else did I have on the bingo card? Let's see here. Fine. All right. Verstappen will not be a World Drivers' Championship. It's too early for that. It's too early to see. We'll see when they rock up to the Middle East. I'm kind of upset that this whole thing with Iran didn't happen before I made the Zachary Brown Broadcast 2026 Formula One season predictions bingo card, because I probably would have easily gotten like 4 or 5 free spaces, basically. I do not see Formula One racing in the Middle East in April. I'm not even sure if they'll be able to go to Abu Dhabi or Qatar, like towards the end of the year, especially Qatar. I think Abu Dhabi's being bombed as well, but Bahrain's being bombed. It's a shit show over there. It's the Middle East. You know how they are over there. So yeah, that is my that is the update on the Formula One bingo card, the Zachary Brown Broadcast 2026 Formula One season prediction bingo. And I did leave out one square. F1 actually used, or not that's the wrong fucking square. Audi mechanical double DNF. We almost had it. We almost were there. Nico Hülkenberg. How did Daniel say it? Hülkenberg. I don't know. I'm probably going to be stuck on that for a while. Nico retires before the race starts because his car, all the electronics in his car just decide to shit themselves. And as a result, there's no telemetry. No way. I'm actually on the Formula One website right now looking at the driver's standings. There is no way. I just scrolled down and it said our partners and Berea, like the fucking pasta people, are. It can't be them. It cannot be them. Oh my god, it is them. Hang on, guys. We gotta take a look at this website here. Is there any mention of Formula One here? Check out our other brands. Soft bread. Something in Italian I can't read. Our past is our future. Dog! Our past is our future is not a good slogan. That is not a good. You're basically. I know that it's like really hard. Like they're going for a heritage thing, But like I'm pretty. Our past is our future is not a good slogan, especially from Italy. All right. From an Italian company based in Italy, All I have to say is that they did not have a good. Italy does not have a good track record when it comes to politics in the last 100 years. Um, I would not use our past as our future. Join our socials. Their first social media link is just LinkedIn. And then it's Twitter, YouTube, and they have a what's on the Berea YouTube channel. Italian video inside the world's largest pasta factory. Italian, Italian, Italian. I don't know why I'm bringing up these Italian videos. It's an Italian company. Of course they're gonna have shit in Italian. Okay. Wrapping up. We're gonna stop talking about Formula One now. We got to move on to IndyCar. Indianapolis car. I don't want to talk about St. Pete. Because I did my predictions and it wasn't a bingo card. I just listed out my predictions and I have them listed. And none of those happened really at St. Pete. I think the only one that did happen maybe was Rossi outperformed Rasmussen. But that was more of like a season prediction than a race prediction. I mean, Santino Ferrucci didn't get the podium. He DNF'd, but like I said, that's like a season prediction, not a race prediction. And then, obviously, because I have a Mossad agent in my walls, they heard Will Power will take a race win and Scott Dixon will win the championship. And they threw me a big fat middle finger and caused both of them to DNF in St. Pete. So we're not going to talk about the season opener in St. Pete. Oh yeah, also Mick Schumacher was qualified last after the race standings. He DNF'd. He got collected up. Stingray Robb. This was right after the Iran War started. So as an homage to the troops, Stingray Robb decided to identify himself as an AIM-9X Sidewinder missile and fucking sent it, I think, into turn 3. And I don't understand why the IndyCar drivers do this. Because it seems like every year, all right, every year on the first lap, we have a wreck in turn 3. You think after 20 years, more than 20 years of racing at St. Pete, you think that they would be able to figure out, hey, maybe we shouldn't fucking identify as JU-87 Stukas and dive bomb into that corner. And yet every year it happens. And it's not even like a rookie thing. Like it happens to like experienced drivers too. So it's not that Stingray Robb is a rookie, but we'll move to the Good Ranchers 250, also known as the race that I was at, the race in Phoenix. And so the thumbnail will probably be another picture of an IndyCar because I was there and I took a lot of pictures. I think I've uploaded them all to my computer. They're all off the SD card. Let me take a look see here because it's quite a lot. So for the IndyCar race, the Good Ranchers 250, I took 1,498 pictures. And for the NASCAR O'Reilly race, I took 152 pictures. There are significantly less pictures because I was in a less advantageous spot. And it was also like getting dark. And taking pictures at night is hard. Especially with that fucking catch fence in the way. And then the NASCAR race, the Cup race, which was yesterday, as I'm recording this, I have 865 pictures. So I've got a lot of fucking pictures to go through. I may just slap together a slop thumbnail like I did with the Keir Starmer video. I may just throw together that because I guess technically the last one is a slop thumbnail. It took me like 5 minutes to make. I just literally took Santino Ferrucci's face and stretched it and then edited an Alonso radio. Unironically, I think the thumbnail that took me the longest here was the broadcast number 5, British Crimes Against Humanity. That's the one with the dumpster fire and Fernando Alonso having flashbacks. That one probably took me the longest. The rest of these are just slop thumbnails. All of these are slop thumbnails, and I don't know if I should be happy or sad. But yeah, anyway, let's stop talking about the slop and get to the race. And it was a good fucking race. Like it was an incredible race. Immediately starting off, Romain Grosjean DNF'd because he had issues with, I don't remember, it was something with the powertrain. I don't remember if it was a hydraulic issue with the gearbox or if it was an engine issue, but he made it about 10 feet in pit lane and then he stopped. And then, so yeah, that was pretty neat to see that. When people see like wrecks like on the TV, they're a lot. I don't want to say this, but they're a lot cooler to see in real life. Unless the driver dies, if I wouldn't want to be there like watching like Dan Weldon at like Las Vegas in 2011. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent here. Dennis Hauger in the opening laps gets touched inappropriately and spins, and incredibly, he manages to keep it out of the wall. He just goes down the backstretch, back to like a third of the backstretch, going backwards, and then flips the car around and keeps going. Truly incredible driving from Dennis Hauger, the rookie, there, especially considering this is one of his first oval starts. I think he did some oval starts in Indy Next, which is right below IndyCar. But this is his first IndyCar oval, like proper IndyCar oval. And then immediately afterwards, and I know this wasn't in the predictions, but I gotta mention it because this was such a big moment. Alex Palou got touched by Rinus VeeKay. It just a little touch. It wasn't like the Dennis Hauger thing, or it wasn't like the touches we see later on. It wasn't a full-on groping, all right? It was just a little bit of harassment from VeeKay, all right? But Rinus VeeKay touches Alex Palou, and Alex Palou goes into the wall, and I have a picture of that. That may be on there. That may be the slop thumbnail. But yeah, now Alex Palou, this is the first time since June of 2024 that Alex Palou has not led the NTT IndyCar Series Championship, which I think is really interesting. It's awesome, or it's not awesome, but it definitely just shows like what level of a driver Palou is, and not to put down anybody. It's not just Palou. Obviously, everybody in that number 10 Chip Ganassi crew is amazing. His crew chief is amazing. The car is always amazing. That's to the mechanics. But yeah, that's my little rant over. And then we had some green flag running. And David Malukas was on the pole, and then he did not have the pole. I think it was lap 76 or 78, one of the 70-ish laps. He lost first position in the round of pit stops, and he would not get it back. But he would finish third on the podium, which is really good comeback from David Malukas, considering where he was like later on in the race. Mick Schumacher, we got to talk about Mick Schumacher, because I have him as my rookie of the year, and he only finished 18th. So right now, as it stands, currently his record is a DNF and an 18th finish. And so if we go to the standings here, let me see how the gap between Jesus Christ, Mick Schumacher's in last place. He's in 25th. It's so over. It is so over. Dennis Hauger's in 11th. I completely forgot about Hauger when I was making those predictions, because I made the IndyCar predictions live. I didn't have like a predetermined bingo card like I did with the Zachary Brown Broadcast Formula One bingo card 2026 season. Marcus Ericsson did not return to victory lane. As a matter of fact, he followed his really good performance in St. Pete with a rather mediocre one here. He's still 9th in the championship standings, though. He's still in the top 10. Will Power, like I said, there's a Mossad agent in my walls, so Will Power decided to fuck it into the barrier. Granted, that was he did kind of have a little bit of help from Hamasmussen. His name's not Hamasmussen, but that's what I call him because he's a terrorist on the track. And I think it was Bob Pockris, one of the journalists, went to all the IndyCar drivers and asked like which ones they trust the most and which ones they trust the least racing side by side, and he was the one who got the most amount of votes for least. By the way, my GOAT Scott Dixon finished 7th, and also he was rated the best. I guess that's just what racing for 25 years in the series will do. And do you know what? I'm going to rant about Hamasmussen real quick, because he did like a post-race interview. He did finish the 250 laps. He did finish the race, but he was in contention to win it. He had a really good shot of winning it, and then he pulled that bonehead move on Power. And then, and granted, there may be a little bit of bias here because I have not watched the TV broadcast yet. I intend to, but I only saw what I saw with my own eyes on the track. But from what I saw and what the people around me saw, Hamasmussen groped Will Power, and so. The reason I bring this up is he did an interview later, and he basically said something along the lines of like, oh, you know, like you can't go like outside on a short oval like this, and like try and force a gap, which is what Will Power did, and Will Power had that right. There was a gap there, and I bring this up because it's not Hamasmussen. Well, it is him bitching, but that's not why I bring it up. The reason I bring him up is because last year he earned a reputation. And it was last year, I don't remember if it was I think it was Road America. He wrecked Connor Daly, who was overtaking him on the inside, and Hamasmussen basically said, well, you're free to overtake people on the right. So which side are you on, Christian? Which side are you on? You can only pick one. That's a banger protest song, by the way. If you need like a folk song, like a folk protest song from like the Great Depression to listen to, that one's a banger. That one is it's a banger. They knew what they were doing when they wrote that song. Anyway, Great Depression era songs aside, Joseph Newgarden, my least favorite driver, pit for tires towards the end of the race, and he absolutely overtook everybody, including David Malukas and Kyle Kirkwood, who was running the race. And Kyle Kirkwood would finish 2 seconds behind Newgarden on lap 250. So I was not happy about that. Okay, let me see my predictions here. So yeah, going through the predictions, Will Power still has not won a race. Marcus Ericsson still has not won a race. And the rest of the predictions, Rookie of the Year, Indy 500 and Champion, I can't comment on yet. because it's too early in the season for any of those. What else is there to talk about? I am quite sleepy, so I could just end the broadcast here. But I've already left you guys hanging for like a week and a half, so I would feel bad if I did that. Um, do you know what? I'm feeling a bit advantageous today. All right, I'm feeling adventurous. I feel like having people yell at me. And those people would be the voices in my head while I'm trying to go to sleep, going, Zachary, why did you talk about that? But we're going to talk about the war in Iran, and specifically the most important part, how it's affecting racing. Um, I'm being sarcastic there. Obviously, the most important part is the people getting hurt and people getting killed. But we don't talk about that on the Zachary Brown broadcast. We talk about racing. Let's talk racing. Um, so, obviously, Israel and the United States decided to go and diddle with Iran. Iran responded by going, oh yeah, well, we're going to diddle everybody around us. And so Qatar is being diddled, and Bahrain is being diddled, and UAE is being diddled. By the way, Andrew Tate, in his endless search of being relevant again, posted a video of him like smoking a cigar, shirtless, because he's always shirtless in his videos, while the bombs were falling. And like I'm obviously I don't like the Ayatollah. I don't like Iran, but they have the opportunity to do something really funny. I'm not saying they have to kill him, but I'm just saying maybe put a bomb, have it blow up, maybe like a safe distance away to where he won't get hurt, but it'll still scare him. Because he's doing these live. He's not pre-recording these. He's like doing these on like Instagram Live or like Rumble or whatever he's on that he hasn't been kicked off yet. And I think it would just be funny to hear him scream like a little girl. That's just me. And I'm not saying I wouldn't scream like a little girl if there were bombs falling beside me. But I also don't like portray myself as like the like next coming of like male masculinity, like the greatest thing to happen since like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know? I just think it would be funny to see him scream like a little girl. That's all I'm asking. He doesn't have to be killed. I wish no harm upon the man. I just think it'd be funny. And obviously, I hope that missile or drone or bomb or whatever they decide to send doesn't hurt anybody else. Because ultimately, if some, like, 4-year-old child gets killed and Andrew Tate screams like a little girl, then it's not, it's not worth it because a 4-year-old lost their life. But if nobody gets hurt and he screams like a little girl, then that'd be funny. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Iran is going around diddling everybody, and as a result, there is a lot of talk about sporting events in the Middle East, particularly the races. Formula One said that they are monitoring the situation, which if you've ever heard that statement on Twitter before, you know that absolutely nothing is going to happen. And by nothing's going to happen, I mean I don't think this war will end in time by April for the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to take place. I'm not saying they won't take place if hopefully this war gets resolved soon. I just don't see it getting resolved. And you have to remember, like, even if they sign like a peace treaty like a week from now, you still have to remember that there's still going to be people like terrorist attacks and stuff. And a Formula One race is kind of a big item, like a big group. It's a big group of people all congregated in one place to watch famous people. I mean, it kind of just screams terrorist attack, So even if this war does end, it doesn't mean that it'll be safe to race there. But the World Endurance Championship, by the way, amazing racing. If you don't watch the World Endurance Championship, you should. Some of the really good racing there. They were supposed to kick off the season with the 1812 kilometer of Qatar. And that obviously isn't happening. They've delayed that, I think, to the end of the year. They haven't outright canceled it yet. They may have as I'm recording this, but as I'm recording this, they have not fully canceled the event. They've just postponed it to the end of the season instead of the beginning of the season. So that means that the World Endurance Championship will not start racing until, I believe, late March or early April, sometime around that time frame in Imola, in Italy. By the way, absolute crime that Imola got dropped from the Formula One calendar. Ultimately, like I said, there's more important things than just the racing. I'd rather have no races there. Like, if it saves the life of a 4-year-old child, regardless of what side, then I have no problem with no racing there. But yeah, like I said earlier, we talk racing on this show, so I gotta talk racing. I don't want to get too deep. I think the most political I ever got was Zachary Brown Broadcast 8. And even then, that was unless you want to count the fucking slop thumbnail I did for Zachary Brown Broadcast 4, where I put Zach Brown's face on the worse than Epstein thumbnail. But that was I'm not actually insinuating that Ozempic Brown is worse than Epstein, but I guess the cure. No, it probably still is Zachary Brown Broadcast number 8. The men's U.S. hockey team. What was the title of it? The file name cut off here. I gotta pull it up real quick. Zachary Brown Broadcast 8. The men's U.S. hockey team are sexist, and it's all Kash Patel's fault. I may rename that. As a matter of fact, I will rename it. You'll see it here first, folks. You won't see it, but you'll hear me renaming it. I will rename the video from the men's USA hockey team are sexist and it's Kash Patel's fault to Kash Patel ruins USA hockey. Or Kash Patel. Do you know what? No, Kash Patel ruins American hockey. There we go. And save. Changes saved. Title officially changed. I won't change the description because I actually chuckled a little bit coming up with that one. But if you don't know the description, then you should check it out so the view number goes up. But yeah, I think gas is expensive now, which, I mean, if there's one thing to, one silver lining to this car accident that I was in, it's that I won't be able to drive the pickup for a while, which gets 9 miles a gallon, because I've got to redo the front body work on it, and then a little bit of the side body work, because I got freaking swiped, but amazingly, the back is perfectly fine, but I got my work cut out for me. But I'm driving the clown car. I'm driving the Geo. I'm driving that around at the moment. I'm waiting here because right now it says 38 minutes, and I need to come up with something to blow another minute here so I can get it to 40 minutes. So I can feel better about the broadcast. Do you know what? We'll talk about Isaac Hadjar, because he actually did a lot better than I thought he would. He qualified P3 after Max Verstappen crashed in Q1, and that was due to a mechanical failure. The rear axle on these new cars will lock up if your battery is full. with the way that they harness energy, much in the way that a WEC hypercar will. Or, well, I guess almost all the WEC hypercars. The Aston Martin doesn't do that because the Aston Martin doesn't have a... That's just a naturally aspirated V12, and as a result, it's the best sounding car on the grid. But, yeah, he actually did really well. He was in P3 for a while. He qualified P3, and then he kind of lost that P3 on the Ferrari starts. But he was running in, like, the top 10. He was looking for a good finish, and then the engine failed on him. His Ford engine failed. Which, obviously the Ford engine failed because it's a Ford. But, yeah. Oh boy, I'm over the 40-minute mark, so that means I can end. Wrong. This is Zachary Brown from the future, and by the future I mean about 10 hours later, or maybe 12 hours later. I'm not good at math. Anyway, I had to include this in. I was going to upload the broadcast, but I had to include this in because this is such big news, alright? IndyCar has officially released the track map for the Freedumb 250 in Washington. And I don't like it. I really do not like it. This track is ass. I mean, like, IndyCar is not new to racing on, like, a crappy track. I mean, they've been racing on the Detroit street circuit for, I think, like, it was after they left Belle Isle, but, for a little bit now, I think, like 4 or 5 years. And that was abandoned by F1 because of how crap it was. But the difference between the Detroit street circuit is that it actually has, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It has a different amount of corners, you know? What I mean by that is that there's a little bit more left-hand corners than there are right-hand corners, but you're still turning right quite a bit. And anybody wondering, the track map on the thumbnail, I was going to do, well, I guess it is technically a slop thumbnail, but I was going to make it extra sloppy, but then the track map dropped, and so then I had to put that in. And it is not a good layout. So we have the pit lane, and that's along Pennsylvania Avenue. The track map is so bad that they haven't even given a, like, definitive start-finish. I don't know where the start-finish line is. I know where the pit lane is, and I know the corner numbers, but I don't know where the start-finish line is. So that could be interesting. But I'm looking at this, and it, like I said, you have the pit lane, and you have a long straight down Pennsylvania Avenue. I believe that's the longest straight on the track, and it's only, it's not even half a mile long. It's only like 4/10 of a mile long, which is kind of, like, which I guess would be fine, but for a series that bills itself as the fastest racing on Earth, like, that's kind of bleh. And then you have, like, a sharp left-hand turn into turn 2, and then another left-hand turn, and that goes down, like, 9th Street and past the National Archives, and then you turn right onto 4th Street, and that is the only right turn on this track. I kid you not. Literally the only right turn on this track. There is one right turn. The rest of the time they turn left. But after that singular 90-degree right turn at turn 4, they pass by the National Gallery of Art on 7th Street and also by the Hirshhorn Museum. And then they turn left again. I'm not even going to abbreviate that. They're going to be turning left from now on. They turn into turn 5 and drive past the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. Then there's like a little kink going into turn 6. and then a kind of a sharper turn going into turn 7, and then you have like a straightaway on 3rd Street on the far end of the National Mall, and then it pukes you back out onto Pennsylvania Avenue with turn 1, and the Capitol is right. And I gotta. Do you know what? We're bringing it. I'm gonna bring it. I'm gonna bring it out.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're gonna hear about it.
I wasn't initially going to have this be a bitching box segment. My plan for this originally was just to report on this for like 2 minutes, put the track map up there, and then be fine. But the more I think about it, the more upset I am, because I do not see. I'm not a fan. Obviously, you've heard my grievances on it. Let's pull up some other people. Well, it's a 1.7 mile street circuit, and it only has 7 turns, which like confuses me. Like Detroit has 9 turns, and Detroit is shorter. Detroit's only 1.6. And I know that, like, DC, like, they obviously cannot rebuild the entirety of Washington, D.C. for a one-off IndyCar race. And I understand that. Like, a lot of Washington, D.C. is right-hand corners, and that's just the way it was built, like, hundreds of years ago. However, like, therein lies the problem. Like, when they were designing this track... No, fuck it. Not when they were designing this track. When they were coming up with the Freedumb 250 as a whole, like as an entire event, they never should have held it on the streets of Washington, D.C. I know why they want to hold it on the streets of Washington, D.C. It's because you have all the stuff there. But I don't think, like, most of these like, obviously, the IndyCar officials know, like Roger Penske and stuff, but I don't think any of these government officials who are signing this in know what it's actually going to look like. Because I think I said this on an earlier broadcast, but literally every single piece of, like, promotional thing that they've, like, shown is, like, AI slop. It's all AI generated, and it's the IndyCar's just driving down the street. It's like if I fucking bought an IndyCar, like, today and just drove it down Phoenix. You know, that's what all those videos look like. And it's not going to look like that. There's going to be massive concrete walls and safer barriers and catch fences. The drivers aren't going to see the Gallery of Art or the Air and Space Museum driving past them, because they wouldn't even see it if the walls weren't there, because they're tunnel visioned and they're focused on that breaking point. But I think the other thing that makes me angry about this track is that it's a point-paying race. It is a full points-paying race. And we don't... Like, everything was set in stone for the IndyCar Championship, for the NTT IndyCar Series. It was a 17-race calendar, and we had 2 races in Milwaukee, and then we ended at Laguna Seca. And then that was it. And that's a good schedule because it ends right before football season starts. That's the problem that NASCAR has. NASCAR can't keep viewership in, like, October, November, September because of the NFL. And so it's good that IndyCar ends there, and they're smart about that. But now, with this extra race pushed in, not only is it, like, you're pushing it closer to the NFL schedule, but you're also bringing it closer to the, like, you're putting more stress on the crews. It's another race on those chassis. It's another race on those engines. The drivers are tired. The fucking haulers are going to be tired. The crews, everybody's going to be tired. The crews, everybody. Even the officials, like the FIA officials that they've recently hired. Because starting August 9th, they have a race on the 19th of July in Nashville, but then they take a little hiatus, a couple week break. And then they return to Markham in Canada, the Markham circuit there, on the 16th. And then they go to Washington, D.C. on the 23rd. And then they have to go to they're doing 2 races at the Milwaukee Mile, one on the 29th and one on the 30th. So they have to do both the races there. And then a week later, they're going to Laguna Seca in California on the 6th. And so between Markham and Laguna Seca, there is no week for resting whatsoever. And this wouldn't be a problem. This wasn't a problem before, because you had the cars in Markham, and they're going to be running the road course kit, and they're going to be running the road course kit in Washington. But now they're going to have to frantically convert it to the short oval kit for Milwaukee, and then change the setup back to the road kit for Laguna. The more you look into it, the more messed up and chaos and disorganized this thing is. And it's not even, I don't even think it's going to be a good race. I think it's just going to be a 2-hour parade. And it's either way I see this, there are 3 outcomes that I see here. Because obviously the fucking track layout just got announced. And so we have the race is on the 23rd. As I'm recording it, it's the 9th. So they have a little over 5 months to get the track built. Which, in busy Washington, D.C., I'm not even sure if they're going to be able to do it. And then they have to make sure the track is safe. Because what happens if the drivers show up and you have Alex Palou and Will Power and Scott Dixon and Joseph Newgarden, and they all get on that track and they all do a couple laps, and then they all pull into the pits going, hey, this isn't safe. I'm not driving on this. Somebody's going to get killed here. Because the last time that happened, it was oh, well, the drivers are pussies. The drivers are... But the last time that happened, that there was a big protest about a race, was Las Vegas 2011. And it was mainly Will Power that was speaking out. And he was saying it was too fast. The cars were going 7 wide into the corner. And something was going to happen. And lo and behold, something did happen. Dan Weldon got launched into the catch fence after being collected up in a car wreck. And he died immediately. And he wasn't just some nobody. I mean, Dan Weldon is a 2-time Indy 500 winner. And so these drivers, and a lot of these drivers, especially Dixon, Newgarden, Power, all these guys remember vividly the death of Dan Weldon. That's not something that leaves your mind very easily. And so I'm not saying they're going to build the track and it's going to be an absolute death trap. But there is the possibility that the drivers go on there and they just refuse to drive it. And the point I'm getting at is that if this race is canceled, it is going to be a massive tarnish on the reputation of the NTT IndyCar Series. I think... I don't even know how to word this. IndyCar has seen tremendous growth. The analytics show that IndyCar is really close to having the same amount of viewership that Formula One does. Average viewership in the United States. And they may be potentially throwing it away with this race. And I don't even know why they decided, like I said before, they shouldn't race here. They should have just gone down to Richmond. And I don't even know why they didn't. Because you have... There's so many opportunities at Richmond. Nobody's racing there. NASCAR races there, a week before... Or actually, wait. 2 weeks before Indy is set... No, it is a week. They race a week before before the green flag is supposed to fly at DC. And so Richmond is it's a little under 2 hours away from Washington, D.C. It's already an established racetrack. The fans have been wanting Richmond back for a while. Everything is already built. They don't need to they don't need to build a new track map. They don't need to install safer barriers. They don't need to do anything. Not even looking at this from the racing perspective, but just from a financial perspective, this is better. Because, like I said, everything's already built. And it's literally a week after the NASCAR race. So it's not like you have to, assemble a crew. Because most of the people are already ready, They've got the things cleaned up and they've got everything done. I don't like that. I don't like the track layout. I don't like that this is a full points paying race. I think this should be like how Thermal was, the Thermal Club race back in 24. I think that if they're gonna race on the streets of Washington D.C., if they're so hell bent on it, it shouldn't be a full points paying race. It should be an exhibition. Do some charity work. Do you know how no matter who you are, charity work looks good. All right? That's what they did with Thermal. I believe it was the $1 million challenge or something like that. And the driver, whoever won it was Polo, by the way, got to donate $1 million to a charity of their choice. And I honestly feel that would be a better format for this session, for this weekend, than the format that we have now. But they're hell-bent on making it a full points race, which isn't, like I said, I think it's going to be a parade. There's not going to be any overtaking. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, everybody was saying this about the Vegas race in F1, and Vegas actually turned out to be okay. If I had the opportunity, I'd still remove Vegas from the calendar. I'd remove Miami first, but I hope I'm wrong in all of this, because in the end, I don't have a magic crystal ball that I can see into the future with. And then there's obviously the logistics hell of what do you do with all the stuff after the race. Do they want to run the race again? Do they want to try and make this a staple on the calendar? Do they want this to be, as it stands, it looks like it's just going to be a one-time thing. But if they want to keep this, I mean, are they tracks like Long Beach? They'll keep parts of the barriers up. They keep the curbs on the sidewalk. There's so much unknown here. But all of this unknown, almost none of it is positive. And going back to the track layout, I know they wanted, in the original announcement, they wanted, I think, a lot more. I think they wanted it to drive right by the White House, and they wanted it to, but advertising is banned in Washington, D.C., or it's banned on Capitol grounds. That's why they're not passing through the Capitol. And obviously an IndyCar is fucking covered with advertisements. And even if the government were to pay these teams like Ganassi and Penske out of that, out of their sponsorship deals, the sponsors aren't going to be happy. DHL, XPEL, Gallagher, none of them are going to be happy about having to basically give up a race for an exhibition, because the whole goal with that is to create a brand recognition. The thing with DHL, and DHL's been in racing for a while. They sponsored, I believe they first started with Jordan in F1 in the early 2000s, but their whole thing, their entire reason with racing is that Alex Palou is dominating right now. Or he was dominating. He may not dominate right now. He's not leading the championship. But he's been dominating over the last few years. And he's been doing that in a car with a massive DHL logo on it. And so when people see DHL, they subconsciously think of Alex Palou. And when they think of Alex Palou, they think of speed. And with DHL, like speedy shipping, all that. Ah, fuck! I'm approaching an hour on here. I gotta end this, man. I'll do a schizo rambling broadcast. I'll do a special schizo broadcast soon. Um, I obviously, if more news develops, I'll record an emergency broadcast, like an 8 or 10 minute stinker to put out there. But yeah, this is we were looking so good, and then they dropped this track layout, and it's an absolute stinky poop of a track layout. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next broadcast. By the way, in case you guys are wondering, I am broadcasting this from the bottom of a manhole cover in Sri Lanka. All right. There's a lot of poor people here. All right. Bye.